Introducing Evans Hybrid Sensory Percussion, the world's most powerful controller for digital music making. If you can imagine it, you can play it.
Hey, welcome back to the Drum Rundown. We are here in Nashville, Tennessee today at 3rd and Lindsley. New venue. We're here with the Stickmen, and we're here with Pat. What is going on, man?
Just setting up and doing this with you. So
great. Well, we were talking about it on the way in the car. There's a lot of people that want me to talk about King Crimson, want me to talk about other things, but I've already let all of my cards out on the table that I'm a huge Mr. fan, and specifically in the top 10 songs of all time of mine is Kiri.
Wow.
So thank you for being the soundtrack to many of our rides to rig rundowns, and also the soundtrack of our youth, which is super awesome. And in those early times, and I think there's a reason why I love that music and why it resonated with so many people, you were on the forefront of incorporating this electronic stuff with acoustic, and you were doing electronic and acoustic kind of like together. You want to talk to me a little bit about how that was kind of being on the forefront of that? Because there wasn't a lot of reference for it, but you were pulling it off so well.
Well, I was always intrigued by that because of stuff that maybe Carl Palmer was doing in the 70s. You know, there was Pollard syndromes and clap traps and things like that. The big change was when I met the Misters, they had a Lindrum. And I inherited the Lindrum. As soon as I got the gig, they gave me the Lindrum. And I guess to back up before that, I already had my Simmons SDS. I forget how I got that. I had one of the first kits in LA because I had a friend. It's a bit of a story you don't even need to know. But anyway, I acquired a Brain with 4 cards, which besides playing it, I'd rent out. So there's a few gigs like Jump or Neutron Dance for the Pointer Sisters. I didn't take the gig. I gave them the thing, and then later went, oh fuck, man, I should have gone down and played. But I think Bree Howard did the gig, and she borrowed those. So,
yeah, and that Simmons sound that's iconic. That's from that time. I think that's what everybody.
Yeah, I still have a few patches. I put it up here.
Oh yeah, let's get it. This is awesome.
Let me see. I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but let me see. Is there a 55 or something? So there we go. Oh. Anyway, they're not actually Simmons resampled. They're just fake.
They're in the Brain.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's a great way to dovetail what you're doing here and the kit that you have. So we have the Roland SPD-SX, which we've seen on countless setups out on the road this year. Talk to me about how you're using this for this particular gig.
Well, I've gone through all 3 renditions, whatever we've had now.
You're early in on it.
Yeah. So this one, of course, gives me more output, so I can give the sound man 2 are usually drum information. And another 2 channels usually send him backing track information or bass lines or vocals or things like that. I use the last 2 channels. I make a mono track for low end kick things like this guy in level 5. He'll get down track 5. So most of the low stuff is down that, and the last track is I use set 6 for my click. So I send a click to the band and myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I have a stop-start over here on the floor that I can grab.
All right, and I see a couple triggers all around kind of interspersed with acoustic drums and cymbals, which I think is interesting. So you kind of have it all spread around.
Yeah, I'm not that ambidextrous, so I need to be able to get a sound where I need to get to.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of times what we do is we see it as a kind of a sidecar thing, or triggers on acoustic drums, and this is the Brain, and they're pulling a sample from something. So it's interesting to kind of have it into the kit, which I think is what we were talking about with the acoustic electronic kind of like meshed together.
Yeah, I like a hybrid because they're not the same instrument. That's the way I look at it. Like one's a banjo, one's electric guitar. This is Stratocaster. You want acoustic guitar, we'll go over. You know what I mean? It's a different timbre, different instrument. So I don't try to pretend that's an acoustic instrument.
So you're leaning into that, right?
Yeah, I embrace it.
Embrace it. Yeah, exactly. And so it becomes part of the composition, right?
Absolutely. And it's almost like I enjoy recording. I mean, I'm not a great engineer, but I enjoy doing it, the process of sound, just sound. I enjoy sounds.
Yeah, and I think you've watched such a crazy kind of advance in technology. I know you're a big DAW guy, so to kind of have that technology catch up to maybe some of the things you were trying to do early on.
That's true, but you guys have passed me by. I'm an old guy now. I remember it was Mr. Technology on a magazine with my face. I don't know what that would have been 40 years ago. I'm not Mr. Tech. I can't even keep my iPhone straight. You know, there's more technology here than I ever had.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's talk about the acoustic stuff, the non-tech. We have this beautiful DW kit, which just sounds absolutely monstrous in this room. It sounds really nice and punchy.
We have a good sound, man.
Yeah,
Robert
very good.
Fogg.
Thank you to all of our techs and sound guys. That goes for me and the Rig Rundown guys. Like these crew guys are crushing it out here on the road. So thank you guys. Yeah. This DW kit, let's talk about what is making it up. Shell construction on down the line.
Ooh, this is the maple kit, and I don't know the shell construction. I have some other kits, maybe
6.
I think, I don't really know, but I've got some other kits that are the vertical stuff, or they're much lower. I've got a mahogany and a mahogany cherry kit. I had the mahogany cherry kit with Crimson, so it could just stay with Crimson for 5 or 7 years, this last 10 years or whatever we toured, with the 3 drummers, with Gavin and Jeremy Stacy and Bill Reeflet. This kit they gave me about 10 or 12 years ago, maybe 15 even, because I was going to New York so much. So we keep this in upstate New York, near Woodstock, where some of the guys live.
Okay.
And originally I think I just had a rack and 2 floors, because at that point I was using a wave drum up here. And then I added the 10. And then just about a year ago, I added the 13. I brought my own 13 for a year or two, and people say, how come it doesn't match? I go, Garrison, maybe I should get a 13 that matches. But just yesterday, somebody pointed out that this looks different. They faded, 10 years on the road.
Right.
These, they were broken glass, so silver, I guess we call that.
Okay.
This one has a bit more gold when somebody pointed that out a couple days ago.
So that's the name of the finish, is broken glass.
I think that's what he called it. I've got just plain maple kits or mahogany kits, and that's what I asked Garrison for, and he said, no, you need bling. So Garrison sent me the sparkle kit. I didn't pick it,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how have you been responding to the sparkle? Do you feel like there's a little extra sizzle in there?
Well,
Makes you feel good, at least.
It brings me back to Ginger Baker. And
Okay.
he's my original hero, Yeah. So he's like Ginger and Ringo and guys like that. So yeah, it's old school. I like it.
Cool. And run around the sizes, because we always get yelled at if we don't do so.
Okay, I'm a 10, and I guess I'm not sure, 10 by 7. I'm not sure. I like shallower depths. I don't like the power toms. We did power toms in the 80s, and I've got some, and I really hate them. Plus, they're so difficult to play, unless you use a small kick. Sometimes I use a 20.
You run out of real estate really fast.
Yeah, I don't want to be up that high. So I think this is a 10 by 7, and this is a 12 by 8, old school, and this is a 13 by 9, and I think this is 16, but I'm not sure it's 16 deep. It might be 16, 14, and 18, 16.
Yeah.
A little shallower. And the kick, I guess, is 16 deep. I'm not really sure what
You're not lacking any heft out of a smaller kick drum, that's for sure.
Even with the 20, actually, it can sound huge. I use a 20 quite a bit. Funny thing is, when we did Crimson in 2008 with just Gavin and I knew he played a 22, so I went the other way. I got a 24 and a 26 and tried to use those, not together. I tried one for a week and then the other for a week, and I was totally fucked. Not my, and plus made everything so high. So it was a bad idea.
Because you've said before that you like to keep everything kind of low.
Yeah, plus recently I threw out my rotor cuff thing, so sometimes I have a cymbal over here, but it's hard to get there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I use G2 heads on all these drums, but that changes all the time depending on what I'm doing. At home I've probably got 10 drum kits, but probably 3 are set up. So there's another head, I think it's called a G12 or a G14 that I have on the toms on one of the kits. They sound great, and I think Evan stopped making that head. And then if I'm doing something that's a lot quieter, like when I was playing with Christabel, I use the Onyx there. I think they're called Onyx, the heavy black heads, real thuddy, real low. So it's kind of, whatever the gig needs. I need the endurance here,
Right.
I play pretty hard. Even though we're playing smaller places, I can't control myself.
Yeah.
And as big as it sounds, I've got the in-ears in. I don't hear that. I hear a little knock in my ears.
Yeah.
With a little bit of rumbling.
Well, you see what you're sending out there. It's pretty awesome,
yeah,
right?
because I took the ears out to hear you guys. And I just tried this, which I've never used, as an ST.
Okay.
I don't know what that even stands for on the snare.
ST.
Yeah. I just changed it a couple days ago because I know why, because the lugs exploded. I had a fucking incredible snare sound. Even the sound, both of us like, is that the best snare I've had ever? And during that show, 2 lugs fell out from the bottom. These two.
Yeah.
And they were on the floor, and I put them back in during the show, and they fell out again. And then when we finished the show, I realized 2 of these lugs are completely spun out. But the drum sounds great. So I played it like that the next several shows. And then I looked down and I see the whole lug casing here. First I heard the rattle. When you take the drum,
Right.
there's a screw in there. It's like, I don't care if there's a screw in there. Just don't touch the drum. Let's just play.
Sounds great.
It sounds good. And then I realized while I'm playing, I'm watching this thing wiggle. So the whole lug, not the screw, but the screw had fallen out, and the lug was just, both screws were gone on the inside of the drum.
Wow.
So I had to take it apart to fix that. And the other thing that's curious here might be the S hoop. I put S hoop on the snare.
Let's talk about that, because that's the first S hoop we've ever seen on the show.
Oh,
so
it's
let's run
so
us
much
through it.
nicer for the side stick. I think for the side sticks are louder. Gavin turned me on to it. Gavin has S hoops on even on his toms, on his main kit. I don't know if he has on every kit he uses, but his main sonar kit that he records with at home is all. Anyway, there's a long story about how I think the guy died, right? You couldn't get the patent until other companies started to make something like this.
See, this is something where I'm out of my water. I don't know, but
check it out. Sort of like the
learn.
hang drum. That I think there's an issue there too, where the inventor passed away and his wife has the patent.
Okay.
And how it's marketed and other companies want it. So for years, I think other people are making an S hoop now, aren't they? Or is there just the one guy?
I think it's just the one. I don't know anybody that's running S hoops.
Anyway, it creates a flange, you know, over the drum. So there's an open space here, which just makes sense to have your side stick a little, and the whole drum opens up.
Well, I was going to say, it's interesting, right? Because you have the triple flange, or you have die-cast hoops, and people swear by die-cast hoops for like tonal things like that, but it's also just a stick ruiner. You can shred stuff really bad.
Well, I've got enough drums that I've played enough to know. For me, a die-cast or an S hoop is the way to go.
Yeah.
Flange hoop. The die-cast is too dry for me.
Yeah.
I've got a few. They're nice sometimes just for a song. Real tight sound like that, higher tuning. I think they like that. But
yeah, and I was going to ask if there was a sonic characteristic coming out of the S hoop that you preferred beyond the kind of being able to stick it.
It's more open. It unchokes the drum. To me, the die-cast kind of choke the drum. They
Which I think some people are going for that because they're getting a little overtone control out of it or something like that. But
for instance, if I want to get the Bruford, it's got to be a flange hoop, and play off on the corner here. Out there is where I usually play. Most of my backbeats fall over here.
Yeah. And speaking of overtone control, this is awesome because we have a lot of overtone control like stuff, and there's different tricks and things. And this is something that kind of went viral a way back, which is like, save your money on moon gels, go to the toy store and get sticky hands.
Yeah, they work great.
And you have sticky hands.
I do. In fact, the drag is, as you probably know, you're playing and then you pick, you pick these guys up on their stick. These are pretty old and dead, but
and you're flinging it just at the front of house.
Yeah, that too. In fact, it was great. There was a, I don't know, 8, 10, 12-year-old girl with her father in the front row. And so afterwards, I gave her a pair of sticks and a couple sticky guys, Yeah.
And fun for the kids.
They work good.
So there it is. We're settling the debate because if it's good enough for this kit and for this sound that we're getting, it
lost
sounds
that
like,
one
where'd it go?
I don't know. They do fly off.
You just have more on standby over there.
Well, that one's pretty old. I've got a couple oldies, and I just ordered a new pack. You get like, I don't know, 50 or 100 of them for $5.
And that's the argument for the cost efficiency.
I mean, moon gel is expensive, man. And there's a lot of times out of the country you can't get moon gel. There's variations, all those glowing, glow in the dark circles and stuff you get in South America.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Resonant heads. What are we using on the bottom? Do we know?
I'm not that picky. These are the original DW heads under here.
Okay.
But what I did do that's different is underneath these guys are those called EC1?
It's the twos.
It's the Evans with sound control ring.
Yeah.
That was on one of the last King Crimson tours. I had a great tech, and I can't remember his name right now. Sean, I believe. And Sean mentioned that he did a lot more heavy metal guys, and he said, man, it tightens up the low end. I think actually, you know, it's pretty dry drum. So that one needs a bit more gel. But anyway, they're a little easier to tune with a thicker head on the bottom.
Yeah.
Opposite of what you would think. You know, I grew up thinking, oh, small resonant head.
Right, I think that's what we were told.
Yeah, but maybe not always. Maybe on the low drums, I think this has worked well for me.
Yeah, and I see just a little bit of cotton and
Yep.
maybe some tea towel in there.
Okay, well, that's another thing from Gavin, and actually it's from Benny Greb. You take a cotton ball and you spread out the cotton ball. Cotton ball's about that big, but
Yep.
if you spread it out thin, it gets about that big.
Okay.
And then you throw that down there, it just lifts up and flies back
Yeah.
down. So it's a natural gait. You know, we used to do it with, when I was younger, it was newspaper. You'd shred newspaper, throw it in the kick drum or in the floor toms. So I started to do that, but what you see here is toilet tissue because
Okay.
I was somewhere I didn't have, and we changed the heads, and whatever reason, I just grabbed as quick as I could a couple Kleenexes or something and threw them down in there.
Well, this sounds great and it's working, and I know that trick, that's a good one, the
Yeah.
cotton ball.
Yeah.
Cool. And so on the beater,
Yeah.
I see we have a level 360.
Oh, the impact pad?
Yeah.
Yeah, the black ones. I like the black ones. I never fond of the blue ones. Or these are Evans.
Yeah.
The Evans black patch is the one I've always
Okay.
liked. And they
And the head on that drum is, that's the EMAD.
and I'm not
Yeah.
sure which one. 1, 2, 3, 4s and all.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Are you putting the foam ring inside of it, or is it with no ring? There's a thin
take it
one
in
a
and
thick-
out. Let me think. The foam ring is missing.
Okay, so no foam.
I think for a while, depends on which kit we're talking about, but one of the kits at home, I tried, okay, so Siberiano, you know the kit I mean, right?
Yeah.
Unfucking believable.
Insane.
And
He actually dropped a song today, which is wild.
every
Good
day.
for him.
I mean, you
Well,
remember-
no, it's original, which is.
Okay. Oh yeah, he's got a band.
Yeah,
I
he
might
has
have
a
seen
band.
that. I might have seen that clip. But beginning of COVID, I fell into him, and every day he's got as you know, a YouTube.
Dude, he's insane.
I can't think of all the formats, but
TikTok, and
Instagram.
all of it,
He showed you one day a day in the life how he makes 4 or 5 videos different every day. A serious player. I mean, a great player. Anyway, he used to record a lot that Yamaha. You clip it on the kick drum, and it's a microphone and a trigger. You know the thing I mean? That's what he records.
Okay.
At least the early sessions, he was explaining that. So I ordered up one of those. So to do that, I had to cut out the heavy plastic that holds the, you know what I mean? Which wasn't this kit. But I feel here maybe that I've torn it just to get rid of that. I don't like it too muffled. I got a full pillow in there.
I see a full pillow.
Yeah.
I see a Kelly shoe.
Yeah, I had the Kelly shoe with a different band. I forget. We've taken this kit with different tours, and with Crimson, I used the Kelly shoe. We had 2 of them in there. All of us drummers did. Okay. So the soundman could have a PZM, whatever we call SM91 or whatever the beta thing, the boundary mic. Ours just sits there. And in fact, we had a really interesting thing where we had full front heads with Crimson, the 3 drummers, and we were at rehearsal, and we weren't ready to cut the head yet, or I can't remember why, but I put the PZM on the floor right next to the kick drum. It sounded fucking great. You don't have to put it in the drum. Just sitting right
close.
under the drum on the floor. Awesome. It was great. We're all shocked. It sounded great. We go to the first gig and try to do that. Doesn't work. Once the PA's on and the whole house is up, there's a lot of extra rumble.
Right.
So it's got to be inside the drum. But for rehearsal purposes, it was great just to sit on the ground.
Cool. And so there was no porthole there, so getting in and out is, not really possible.
We had a great crew with Crimson. So it was Jason Byrne that takes care of Gavin with Porcupine Tree and Pineapple and a lot of things he does, and he makes a really clean little. There's a little port you put there. I forget who makes that little thing, like a plastic port protector thing.
Nice. Let's talk about cymbals.
Okay.
What do we got? We can start all the way over there.
Okay, I'm a
first.
Paiste guy, and I've gone down to 13s. Okay, we play, this is for stickmen, Tony Levin, Marcus Reuter, and myself. And our gigs vary quite a bit. We do some small, like city winery gigs. People are eating like right there.
Right.
I'm sympathetic. I don't want it. So I went to these holy cymbals. They're a lot quieter.
Yeah.
A lot quieter. So I would love to have a 20-inch full signature series. That's my favorite crash cymbal without a doubt, but it's just too much in this environment. So I've gone to like a 16 and an 18 with the holes, and they're so much quieter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 13s with the hat seem to match that. I usually just play a 20. These are the Vinny rides. What are they called? 602, the maybe 5-10 years ago, whatever, when Vinny switched over to Paiste, they gave those.
The Modern Essentials, the
Modern
602.
Essentials, Modern Essentials. In fact, I have a few crashes, very thin crashes. I used to record a lot from that same.
And that alloy is very, very special. There's some characteristics there. Great. It is very,
it's
very
great.
cool.
I have one of these now, a 20, and this is a 22. But I keep a kit, another kit in Europe. I keep a kit in Italy. I go enough over there, and the kit with Crimson that stayed in the locker, and the kit at home. So I've got 4 or 5 of this cymbal, so they can stay in those locations. Because I can't always, when I travel, I have to take 2 suitcases just to take my electronics, and you know, doodads, squeaky toys, and sticks.
And are you traveling with a snare? Are you leaving?
Right now I take this whole kit with us every day, and this, like I say, this stays up in Woodstock.
When you fly, are you flying with a snare?
No, I can't. I can't take that much shit.
Okay.
It'd be very rare. I had my platinum status for quite a while, and so you take the head off and put more crap inside the snare, and, you know, and get. Or if Crimson was rehearsing, especially in the beginning, I'd go over for maybe a week or 5-7 days, work with Gavin, come home, go back 3 weeks later. The whole band would rehearse, but Crimson's weird that way. We don't want to just do 2 or 3 or 5 weeks and then go right out on the road. It's more like Robert likes to, let's get together for a week and kind of get acquainted with material, then go home by yourself and develop it, and then come back in a month and continue rehearsal. So that's a lot how Crimson rehearsal, very expensive.
Yeah.
People aren't in the same country, but that would give me an opportunity to take an extra thing or 2 on every trip. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely smart to with freight and the cost of everything that we've been hearing to leave kits and you just go with your brain in a bag.
So what else is different for this tour is the Little China, which is a 14 Rude, and then I've been using a larger, I forget what series, that's a great cymbal though. It might also be a 602 Essential thing.
I'm going to back it out.
But they have a good contrast to my ear. Yeah, it's another 602 type. So usually I've got something, so I can get a bit of a, you know, in a tight space, a lot of variation of tone. There's a kid in Austin, Gabriel Martinez, that's making cymbals. GM Design, have you seen those? GM Design?
I haven't seen them.
Making really crazy stuff. And I have a big 24 with all these bubbles on it. Really interesting, fun cymbal to play. He's got a lot of crazy stuff, but that's the one I was using up there, and I couldn't fit it in the suitcase. It was too big. So I took it on an earlier tour. I'm not sure, maybe my wife came with when we hand carried it on the plane or something. So he's actually making me one. He made me a smaller one. He made me a 21. And he was at my house, and I said, look, it won't fit in the suitcase.
Right.
A 19 and a half, 19 3/4, that's as big as, so he's making me one like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to know a guy where you can get custom stuff like that.
Yeah, he's great. He's very into making cymbals.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. And let's talk about the snare drum, like the make and the model of it. I know we talked about the lug backing out.
It's DW straight off the shelf, really.
Cool.
I put the S hoops on it. It's got a mic underneath, but let's go ahead and pull it out of here. Just have to remember to put it back.
Get intimate with it.
Let's see, I can't remember how many snares, but not too many snares. Yeah.
Okay.
With Crimson, I started to use one of Gavin's signature snares, which is only like 8 snare strands, you know, so this is fairly wide. What else? I think I changed the lever. I've broken the lever a couple of times. Well, the throw off is sometimes subject to getting bent. You can see this one's bent already.
Yeah. That
piece there. So that's a bit of a worry. Sometimes I even carry an extra one, like on a tour like this, it's in a soft bag and it's thrown in the back of the van. Yeah.
Cool.
And then he's miking it with a Bayer. That's an old Bayer underneath. It clips on, and a 57. I'm a big fan of the 57.
I'm a huge fan of the 57.
Yeah, that's all
it's
I ever
want. It's a ride
want.
or die.
I mean, if the guy wants to experiment, go ahead and have a party, but just give me a 57. You know, I grew up a lot in the studio with Mike Chapman, the guy who was Chin and Chap.
Okay.
Did the Sweet and Blondie and the Knack and all that. And he was an exception. He would quite often, his KM84 on the snare,
Okay.
or a 414.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we had a hard time getting a snare sound, very surprising, he'd use a 414 and pull it way back over here somewhere. And I learned a lot working with Mike. He'd also use that as a back kick mic sometimes, depending on what he wanted. If I wanted a double head and he couldn't get enough point on it,
Yeah.
you can position a 414 right in next to the beater.
And I love hearing a studio guy go 57's the thing.
Oh yeah, no doubt. The knuckle is a great thing.
Yeah.
I see some guys make a converter kit, but you can buy a 57 with a knuckle. You don't
Right.
have to do the conversion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the rack toms, just while we're talking about microphones, not to leave those out, what are those?
I think they're Audio Technica. Sorry about that. They're EVs. They're EVs, and
Yeah.
I see ND44, and then there's a bigger one back here. I've gone through a few different microphone endorsements. I guess I had Audio Technica around the time of the Mr. Misters and the Rembrandts, and then somewhere in the late 90s, I got with Bayer.
Okay.
Bayer hooked me up. I lost some of those mics. I lent them to a good friend of mine who did a TV show called David Letterman, and they got nicked after the show. So, and it was a whole where you have a briefcase, with there's like 16 mics between two little lunch pails, and they all went bye-bye. So I lost mine, but then I got hooked up with EV people. So
It's great. Well, we'll put an entire mic list in the description
there's
box.
another one. I think
We'll
it's called
film
a
all of them.
409, Electro Voice 409, which is an older mic. You see them in some of the shitty clubs. It's got a little swivel with a ball on the end.
Okay.
I think it's called a 409. That's what I use at home on my toms. I love it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And stick-wise, what do we got?
I'm Vic Firth guy, and these are the 55B Extreme.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone smaller. I used a much bigger stick for the last 20 years. When Crimson pretty much is done. We did our last gigs in 21.
Okay.
So it was after that I said, now's the time for a change. I want to try and chill down a little bit.
Yeah. And the extremes, I'm in an extreme as well, so you're getting a little
the length.
Yeah.
The length is a big deal to me. I've always had a longer stick,
Yeah.
no matter, not bragging about it. It didn't come out exactly, but yeah. So.
Is there something in the extra length that you're finding that you like?
What's the
weight,
reach?
balance, the reach.
Well, it's just I've gotten used. I tell you what else. I almost always find myself at the end of the stick.
Yeah, same.
I might start here, and sometimes I really focus all night on playing and trying to see some stick back here. But if I just start to play naturally, it just slides right down.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of where I ended up too. And then you're trying to keep all the ergonomics and like body tension away and stuff. You need a little extra reach. Very cool. And we skipped over, I wanted to talk about the DW9000 kick.
Oh,
you got the double.
Well, I'm not that picky about the 9000 or the 5000,
All
whatever
right.
it's called, 5000.
Yeah,
I think
5000.
5000 actually plays a little easier for me.
That seems to be where, we're taking kind of like the votes, and it's like 5000s are great.
Yeah, and that's what, actually at home I think I'm using some Tama pedals or something else.
Okay,
I'm not
Speed
really
Cobra.
sure. Yeah, but I've got these in the touring kit, and yeah, I like them. They're very sturdy, the stuff.
Oh yeah, DW, it's like built like a tank.
Yeah.
And DWs as well.
Yeah, they're
Cool.
great people, so yeah.
Okay, so the last thing we have up here, obviously, are what you were going to correct me, so let's go there.
You called them triggers, and
Yeah.
I did use a lot of triggers back in the day in the 80s and stuff with the Misters and stuff like that. Kyrie, I'd burn my own samples on chips, be able to take the sound from the record, put them on my, gosh, on the snare. And when I started to work with Bruford, he said, man, don't do that. Just play a kit. And when you want to have another sound, go to another place for it. So
Right.
it's not all just like this massive stack of sounds on top of your kick drum. So there are no triggers anymore, plus all the times when they would cross trigger. So what I do is I have satellite pads. These go into the SPD. So I'm gonna be afraid of what they hit here because it's all out in the PA and I've got so
Right.
many bands. But these go into the SPD, and this guy does as well. Sometimes
fun.
he's a kick, so I can get between two kicks here. More often he's something else. I wasn't prepared for this, but let's see here.
Throw you a
I
curveball.
get a lot of guitar parts to drop in. Over here is a hand sonic, the old hand sonic. That's my guy, the first one. And I use a satellite pad here. He goes with this. So let me think here. I'll give you a quick example, like maybe. It's weird hearing it only out there. But
Yeah, right.
Anyway, that's a satellite pad with that. So these 3 pads go there. That pad gets me there. So if I can't get a hand to the other side of the kit.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. We could sit here and talk all day. This has been like an absolute treat. We're going to have to come back and get a whole nother rundown just to talk about some of the stuff.
A different
band, because you're a man of many bands. You're a band of my childhood in Mr. Mister. You're a band in everyone's childhood in King Crimson. And tonight, you're in a band called Stickman.
That's right.
And
I get
you
to play with Tony.
are Pat Mastelloto. And I am Jarrad James. This is the Drum Rundown. We will see you all on the next one.